Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of the Film Seizure podcast. I'm Jason Oliver, and with me, as always, I have the very spoopy Jeff Arbuckle.
Spoopies.
And the also very spoopy Charles Chuck Moore.
Hi.
Is it Charles and then Chuck in like quotation marks?
Exactly. Yep.
All right.
That's what I had in my head. Yep.
Okay.
This is week 1 of October, which is time for spooky stuff.
Spookies.
Yeah. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to bring you the spookies.
But we're not going to talk about the movie spookies.
No, we're not going to talk about the movie spookies. Maybe one day. We'll see.
Maybe one day, yeah. If you want to hear somebody talk about spookies, I did Monster Mondays a couple years ago.
Yes, you did. But no, today we're going to talk about something arguably much better than the movie spookies.
Arguably.
We're going to talk about David Cronenberg's 1979 film, The Brood.
Yeah, so this is the return of Cronenberg. We've talked about him with
Videodrome
and
Dead Zone.
And I think we mentioned Jason X.
and Nightbreed.
And Nightbreed.
Yeah, he's been on the podcast quite a bit.
And I did Rabid on one of the earliest Monster Mondays. So, yeah, we're all bringing it back home.
Yay.
Spooky.
I think I was only on Dead Zone.
Yes.
I believe so. The others are early and no, you were on Jason X.
Oh, that's right. I was thinking of directed by.
Sure.
We all want to forget Jason X.
Yeah.
Want to excise Jason X.
Yes.
All right. So what do we got here? This is a gross movie.
This is a gross movie. This is obviously it's a Cronenberg picture, so there's going to be a little bit of that or a lot of that visceral kind of body horror, if you will, that he's so known for.
There are sacks of things in this movie.
They're slimy. Yep, there's a lot
testicle necks in this movie.
Well, I thought it looked like the kind of mushrooms that grow on the side of trees.
I thought it looked like Fat Bastard after he lost weight. That's the only funny thing that will happen this episode.
Get it out now.
Well, this is Cronenberg's first movie he made after the Cinepix pictures. So his early career of Rabid, Shivers.
Shivers was on Monster Mondays too.
I was.
Yeah, but we're going to get them all one way or another.
Got to catch them all? Got to catch all those Cronenbergs?
Cronenbergs? You got to catch all those Cronenbergs and hope you don't turn into one.
And this one is the first of his films to actually have a semblance of a budget also, as evident in the fact that he was able to get stars like Oliver Reed and Samantha Eggers, especially Oliver Reed, who was pretty big star.
And 75% of his cost is booze.
Right. Yeah.
So
we'll work for booze.
He's got to stop at the beer store a lot.
There would have been a lot more bottles of J&B shown in the movie if Oliver Reed wasn't in it.
Go to his trailer
because he doesn't even leave empties. He just smashes them.
He smashes them and then he smashes them.
yes, he does. He's the guy who empties a bottle and just throws it behind him.
And then demands more.
Yeah.
He is literally Thor in the first Thor movie.
Yeah. Oh my!
I like this more.
I think that's the way to keep this episode a little light is to sprinkle some Oliver Reed throughout, and he would be more than happy. Would have been more than happy to oblige. Were he still with us on this planet Earth?
Oh yeah, no way. I mean, he would come on the show because he would drink all of our booze in the refrigerator and then leave halfway through the episode.
Yeah, he would. I don't even think he'd make it this far.
No,
like at the point we're at right now, Oliver Reed has already left to go find more booze.
He's got to go down the road to Matthew Stafford Liquors, buy out the place.
Oh man, no one's gonna get that joke.
Well, unless you live in Beech Grove, no one's gonna get that joke. I will say that I greatly appreciate Oliver Reed's therapy geek.
His therapy gi.
Yeah, he looks. I thought they were going to do karate at the beginning of this movie, and it's like, no, this isn't karate at all.
It was a bit of emotional karate.
He is,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
is totally putting that one dude in the,
Michael,
he
roundhouse kicks his brain a lot.
right.
So yeah, let's talk about that. I'm gonna have to pull up the character names here because I don't.
Well, Michael, because
Dr. Hagelin and Michael to start.
right.
he's got it. I
Thank you,
typically had
Dr.
it. You got
Hagelin.
it this
Yeah.
time.
I what I can tell you is that Dr. Hagelin runs the Soma-Free Psychoplasmic Institute,
All of those words sound like something that
or
this.
Soma-Free Institute of Psychoplasmics.
Yeah, I was gonna say this sounds like something that should be in Sonoma, Arizona, or like one of those like hippy dippy places. Except for, I don't think hippies are into gross shit.
Well,
Except
that's
for not bathing.
exactly what's
Right.
happening here.
Right.
Is this is like Cronenberg is always in his films. This is kind of maybe one of the first times in one of his big features that he's kind of lampooned a little bit of that kind of pseudo scientific form of therapy, right?
Ooh, I don't know. I think Rabid.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I mean,
yeah,
but
absolutely.
Rabid is actually more based probably on real stuff than this stuff.
Yeah, Rabbit is a little bit more like the plastic surgery.
It feels like the beginning of like what would eventually become stem cell research or something.
I think he touches on this a little bit in like Crimes of the Future or Stereo, his really early like super independent short features. But yeah, I mean, you're right. That sort of that 70s kind of cult, kind of like psychotherapy, homeopathic, that kind of very hippie left wing kind of form of cult is what he's lampooning here for sure. Because his ex-wife joined one.
Right.
You know, and she stole his kid, went to California to join a cult like this, which is where this whole movie is born out of his anger about that situation. Cronenberg had to go to California, steal his daughter back, and fly her back to Canada. And he doesn't talk about this in much detail that I've been able to find, and I don't blame him. But he's essentially had to like fight for custody of his daughter. Eventually, I think she just gave up and gave him custody because she was living some kind of weird hippie commune life that Cronenberg did not want his daughter to be a part of. I don't know what happened to her. I don't know what happened to the cult. I don't even know the name of the cult.
Don't worry, Jeff will catch her eventually.
You got to catch all the Cronenbergs.
I'm like, wait, what? I was like, oh yeah. I'll catch up to that.
But what you have here is an artist making a horror film that is very much influenced by what has happened in his personal life in a very close proximity. So, Chuck, you said before we started the episode, this is a very angry, it's a mean movie, a movie that hates, and it's like absolutely it
Right.
is. To me, this is the kind of horror film that is kind of what horror films became, or what true kind of horror film is born out of, right? Is this type of artist who is excising demons,
Right.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing that I think like Jordan Peele talks about making, like especially with like Get Out. It's the idea of, I experienced this. I'm going to tweak some things to make it more, crazy, but it's born out of real life frustration and what's the word I'm looking for? It's the stuff that scared him,
right? Yeah, right.
The thing about this movie too is like the horror. If you can call this enjoyable, I don't know if you can call this movie enjoyable necessarily, but the thing that makes it watchable is the added horror stuff, because the stuff that the real horror of children being stolen and children being in danger and all that it would be difficult to watch.
Oh, custody battles are
without the
terrible.
fun psychoplasmic
Right.
stuff, right?
Yeah, and that's interesting because the fun psychoplasmic stuff is again like Cronenberg processing, real life trauma, right, and perceived trauma for his child through Cronenbergian metaphor, right? And it all adds, I think, lots of layers of depth, which is what makes this movie watchable for me. Is is really kind of like digging into the psychology of what's being transmitted through this movie, right? And there's a lot. I mean, there's so much depth to this movie. It's kind of crazy. And you can view it in a lot of different ways.
Right? Yeah, I was going to say, so a couple of things that I was thinking about watching it. For one, it's only 90 minutes, first and foremost. So
Thank the Lord.
Right. That makes it a easier watch as I turn my head all the way upside down.
Right.
But it's two key things about it. If I were to rewatch it again, I'm going to watch Oliver Reed more closely because I think he is totally telegraphing when he realizes that Nola is beyond help.
His arc is actually pretty good.
Yeah,
in this movie.
And he's still trying to be a professional psychiatrist, but he realizes he's in over his head,
right?
And he has to save everybody else at that point.
And you would argue that you don't ever really get the sense that he's ever saved anyone.
No, and he's realizing that he's full of shit.
He's fallen into something that he doesn't understand, and he's trying to turn it into something that he can harness and control and use maybe to help people, but also probably to make himself famous and money.
It's the one thing. Now, this is going to be a weird comparison. It's the one thing that actually works in the Rob Zombie Halloween movies.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The whole idea.
I don't think that's a weird comparison.
But it's the whole idea that Malcolm McDowell is trying to kind of enrich himself off of Michael Myers, but also still being a psychiatrist, but being morphed into something more like a Dr. Phil than a real psychiatrist that could try to do something. But anyway, the other thing is that there is absolutely a read on this movie that is about like actual like mental illness.
Sure. Well, not only mental illness, but
and the cycle of it.
Well, that too, but also the line between mental illness and actual trauma.
Yeah.
Right. And is there a separation? Are they intrinsically entwined? Do they, do they feed? How do they feed off of one another? Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. And then yes, that how does that pass along through family? And is there a genetic link? Is it because of the trauma? And then that's where you start to really start to get into some of the philosophical layers of this movie. And I warned you guys that I was going to talk a little bit about Cartesian dualism, where there's a very famous philosophical theory that the mind and the body are two totally separate and distinct things, and that the mind, there's nothing physical about the mind. Cronenberg does not believe that. He is more of a materialist in that he believes that the mind and the body are intrinsically linked and that they do affect one another, and that the body can manifest what's in the mind. Right. And that's what's happening in The Brood, quite literally, viscerally and literally. Yeah. What's interesting about the body of Cronenberg's work is that while he
is it linked to the mind of Cronenberg's work?
Yes. While he doesn't while he doesn't subscribe necessarily to a dualist kind of philosophical belief, he's generally trying to answer the questions that dualism presents, right, in his work, and usually he's doing that with a materialistic counter argument,
right,
and that's what's happening in The Brood quite significantly. So
I just had 47 short shirts in my brain.
Short shirts.
See, I can't talk so good now.
Jeff's wearing belly shirts on his head.
Oh, that'd be nice. We're by a little pull back the curtain.
Fucking hot.
It's fucking hot in August here. And it's Jesus Christ. Anyway, no, I think I follow what you're saying. I feel like I lose the thread with the whole the brain can or the mind can manifest things. That doesn't compute. But so I guess I'm on the other side of it, that I kind of look at it as two different things, which when I really kind of think about it, yeah, like I have whole other worlds in my brain. And that shit ain't happening. That ain't coming to pass.
Well, I don't think you have to necessarily take that literally, that the mind can actually manifest physical things. But that's what interests Cronenberg when he uses horror for metaphor.
That's what makes placebos work, right? Like the fact that your mind can affect your body.
Right.
If placebos, in fact, work or whatever.
And there's also, studies have been done about the effects of stress. And how your mental health can cause a deterioration of your physical body, right?
I can relate to that.
Yeah,
like 1,000%.
Me too. So that's what I think he's really talking about. But he's taking it to this nth degree to make that so viscerally apparent on the screen that there is this absolute connection between what your mind does and how your body reacts, and vice versa.
What's cool about this movie is you don't even really need to think about that. To watch this movie, and I don't mean that in a bad way or negative
way. Are you
way.
Like, let's get the fuck away from this conversation?
What I'm saying is a lot of directors, when they try to make those kind of points, they hammer it in a particular way that you're like, oh my God, this is making me nauseous. It's better when you can just take it in and think about it.
Yeah, this is a lot more intelligent.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a better way to say what I was saying.
Right, but no, I get, 100%. The hammer, the hammer can be struck very hard on stuff like that.
And that's the hay that Cronenberg has made in his career, right? Is to be able to make this kind of intelligent horror that delves into very deep and ancient psychological and philosophical beliefs, and to bring that and manifest that in a way that doesn't hammer it over your head, but also allows for multiple interpretations. He is answering questions with every movie he makes for himself, and he's not even necessarily answering them. He's maybe finding new questions along the way. Like he doesn't make movies to proselytize. That's not the word. Prophetize.
Okay.
Proselytize.
Thank you. Any one specific belief. He's actually kind of doing the opposite. He's raising more questions.
Right. So he's I guess you could say he's kind of like growing with the
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So what the hell is happening in the Brood?
Well, we got what was
Dr. Raglan and Michael.
And Michael, he's Michael's got daddy issues.
Yeah.
Real bad ones.
And they're in their little therapy geese. And they're literally geese, guys. I can't get over this. Okay. They're beige geese. And it's like, I'm starting this movie and I'm like, oh, karate. And no, it goes really bad.
But really, right off the bat, they introduce you to the idea that women are evil almost, or looked down upon by men.
Well,
very, like the way that Raglan uses Michael's father to talk down on him to make him feel like less of a person is to compare him to a woman, him to a girl.
But that's the daddy issue,
right?
No, I understand it is, but it's a warning about this movie. It's a quite literally like warning you.
I don't necessarily think that there's.
I think in retrospect you can draw those lines.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Because it's sort of like you're saying that the movie is already inherently somehow misogynistic, and I don't necessarily think that's.
I don't think the movie is misogynistic necessarily. I think that the topic is misogynistic. I don't know how to say this. So
I think when we get to the final scene, we have a lot to talk about there. From this point on, I think for me, what it's telegraphing is that there is this clear connection between trauma, between the relationships of parents and children.
Right.
I
get that too.
And you could probably dig and pull back some more layers. And sounds like you have. But I think that is probably the core of what's being conveyed here, and also the fact that we have to get some plot, right out of the gate, that we have this kind of like pseudo weirdo cultish type
it's weird beard.
psychiatrist who is using, some form of talk therapy to pull out his patient's anger about their trauma, and immediately it starts to manifest physically on their body, right? Which is happening with Michael.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's that kind of, it's that tough love typist. Again, it's that Dr. Phil bullshit. I'm going to tell you the things you don't want to hear to force you to face that. That's not good.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting,
that's strip mall therapy. That's not a real actual guy who knows what he's doing. Therapy.
Well, it feels wrong, right? What he's doing, 1000% it feels wrong. But there's also like this idea that the physical manifestation of this, maybe this stuff works.
Right.
Like maybe it's actually excising some of his pain.
Because cause has effect, right?
Right.
Then there's even a guy in the audience who witnesses. He says the man's a genius.
Right.
And our main protagonist looks at him, who we haven't quite met yet, and is looking. I'm like, why? Why is he a genius? What has he done?
What is this?
That is so great at this point. Yeah. Did he actually help him or not?
But people that join cults see this kind of result,
100%,
and they draw their own whatever the word is. I'm trying to think.
Well, they draw their own conclusions, and they find their own.
They find an answer.
Their own salvation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I prayed to get a job, and tomorrow I have an interview.
Right.
Right.
You're right. Correlation is not causation. Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
So he and the manifestation when he bubbles up all of the it would have been easier if you were just a girl because you're so unmanly and all of that.
Weakness is more acceptable as a girl.
Right. Which, while that is a misogynist statement, and Chuck, you are now going to be canceled for that. I'm going to make sure. It is
that is actually said in the movie, just for clarity's sake.
Right.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. But the thing is that it's the misogyny of the character that the character has an issue with.
Yeah.
Right.
Or the perceived.
I don't even think it's Dr. Ragland's
belief. He has found this and he's using it.
He's exploiting it.
Yeah. Which I'm not going to say that that's not acceptable every time. Sometimes you have to, like, if somebody is really burying trauma, sometimes you have to bring it to the surface somehow.
Sure.
But it's not something that you want other people to see.
Almost everyone believes it in this movie. Even the psychiatrist that has the daughter says you need to make her confront this.
Right.
Like her reaction is not right.
Right. Exactly.
Like it's a judgment of how people react to trauma or whatever.
Right.
Is being made here.
And I think that there's some early criticism of that idea also, is that people react to traumatic events in different ways. They process it in different ways. There is no one healthy way to process grief or trauma or any of that, right?
It's going to be based on the individual.
Yeah.
I felt guilty for many years that I did not cry at my grandmother's funeral.
Yeah,
because
that's
everyone
fair.
else was crying and I wasn't. And I was like, what am I?
But there's nothing wrong with it.
There's nothing wrong
I know
with
it took
that.
me a long time to reconcile that.
Right.
though.
Right.
But there you go. That's a perfect example.
Yeah.
Perfect example.
Well, and it's like I'm the guy who continuously criticizes people who put the decal on the back of their pickup truck that says "in memory of somebody." And it's like, your truck's not in memory of that person. Deal with this another way, But again, I'm not probably in the right about
who
that
are
either.
you to say?
You're not.
I'm not, but it is something to me that thinks this is weird. But there's a whole other level I could go into with how this country in general worships the dead in ways that I think is gross.
But yeah, that's probably not this episode.
That's not this episode.
Yep.
That's next week. And it's just going to be me for an hour and a half, like just having my own therapy
I'm
session.
going to Oliver Reed that episode.
I'm going to put on my therapy gi. Anyway,
man.
so the manifestation are these really weird kind of pussy sores.
Almost like a pimple that gets way worse.
Right. It's like an infected, ingrown hair.
Yeah.
And it's some of them pop, some of them don't, some of them, it just looks painful, and it's all over the person's body. And to which, you know, again, if you're an outsider and you see enough information to say, I have brought all of this the negative stuff has been brought to the surface and the mind is expelling it, I can understand why some people believe that.
Well, yeah, I mean, they used to believe back in the day that bleeding people got rid of
You're right.
Oh,
this kind of disease or whatever.
You've got a fever, throw a leech on them.
Yeah, so this is like it's that idea. They're bleeding.
It's the modern version of bleeding, or like the whole thing where somebody is a little too weird or crazy. Won't drill a hole in their head.
Right.
That'll do it.
Yeah. Got to let out that
demon or whatever. Yeah. So it's like, so it's the modern form of that. And Art Hindle, who is Frank Harvith?
Harvith.
Yeah.
Harvith or
Harvith.
Yeah.
He's watching this because he is going to pick up his daughter.
Yes.
And he thinks that all this is just woo-woo bullshit, basically. Plus he's angry about the divorce. He's angry about, like he says later in the movie, that he feels like his ex-wife's insanity is like he caught it.
Well, let me ask you this, because I wonder if he really initially thinks this is woo-woo bullshit, because somebody had to agree to put her there, his wife there. I don't think she willingly put herself in Dr. Raglan's care. It had to be the husband.
Or the mom.
It doesn't have to be.
Or maybe had to agree to it.
She could have
Well, it could have come from
gone willfully.
Could have, but it may have been a suggestion in the divorce trial.
Well, if you look at her
and
apartment,
then she found that
she was living in,
right.
she was worshiping. I don't know who the other pictures were. I assume they were other kind of famous psychiatrists of some sort. But the biggest picture of all was Raglan.
You're right.
Yep.
So
it is Oliver Reed.
She probably did decide it on herself. Yeah. I forgot about that.
I think there are certain type of people, and I know one of them who may or may not also be my mother, who latches on to certain things that reflect a thing that they already want to believe or believe. Right.
That's fair. I think everybody does that in some way, shape, or form.
Sure.
It's parasocial relationships.
Some people take it to the level to where they're blind to any other counter argument.
Fair enough.
And Samantha Eggers'
I think
character
there's half a country that's doing that right now.
Yeah, right. And Samantha Eggers has obviously suffered some type of trauma in her life.
Right.
Or if not trauma,
one.
has a mental illness, right? That has maybe manifested some possible, memory, whether a figment or real, of trauma, right? She is looking for some sort of guidance and help to help her process this. She's an ill person, and she finds Raglan, and Raglan takes her in and makes her feel like he can help her, right? So yes, her husband has probably been dealing with this mental illness in their household from her, probably is exasperated by it, doesn't know how to help her, has tried to help her.
Well, he's made it seem clear that it was there from the beginning,
right? And that he that's right, because he has the same comment you were saying, is like, I was hoping my sanity would rub off on her, and it ended up being the other way around,
right? And which is
a very common thing in relationships.
Well, that is common. Just you can sometimes relationships become toxic.
Mm-hmm.
And it causes people to do things that they don't normally do. You hear stories of how people do these awful things to their partner or whatever. That may even be physical, or it might be emotional, or it might be psychological, or whatever. But nobody else has ever experienced that from the other people, or from from those people that do those terrible things. And it's just, sometimes people are just not right for one another. And sometimes it becomes extremely toxic to the point where it's funny because I watched this movie right at like the next day after watching Cat People, which I think is another example that you could read that as mental illness, not a real thing.
Right.
And there's a toxic relationship where one person withers from one other person's issues. You know, and it's very similar here where, you know, Frank feels like he's withered from the you know, it's like he's trapped in the blinding light of this issue, whatever the issue is.
Yeah,
Frank isn't necessarily worried about himself, though.
He's worried about their kid, which is the right thing. And even Oliver Reed's like, isn't that what you want a parent to do, is to protect the child? You know, and Samantha Eggar can't even respond to that straight. She goes back and forth.
But he picks up his daughter, right? And he brings her home and he bathes her and he notices that she has
bites and bruises.
Cuts and bites on her back. And he goes back to the doctor basically to tell Raglan, like, my daughter will not come here anymore, right? She cannot come here because what is Egger's name? I can't. Nola is apparently beating her, right? And the doctor is very pushy on the subject that she needs this right now. This is a critical part of her recovery.
Yeah.
It's interesting though, because at this point it looks like Dr. Raglan is evil, right? You get the picture that he is manipulating Nola in a way that he wants to continue to do.
Yep.
And that kind of perception of him changes throughout this movie.
Yes.
It's very interesting.
He's a bit, you get the sense that he's hiding something, which he is.
Yep.
And you get the sense,
he is.
And you get a sense of his megalomania.
There's a whole attic of shit that he's
still
hiding.
Thinks that there's this thing that you don't even know how far it has progressed at this point that is out of his control, and he's still trying to rein it in and make it something. He doesn't even know what the fuck it is.
Well, I think what you don't realize at this point is that he knows if he lets her go, bad shit is going to happen.
That too. Yep.
And again, in retrospect, you realize what he's really doing is he's protecting everyone else from her.
And he's in over his head at the same time.
And you totally don't get that feeling in the beginning.
Like you even realize that he's willing to take her as his wife, even potentially, or a lover, to calm her down and to protect everybody else from her.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And you wonder too if it's her, if she's the reason that these other people are able to manifest in the way that they've been able to manifest.
I think that's very possible.
Yeah.
They call her the Queen Bee.
Yeah, and we never see Michael again manifest those blisters.
Right. So there's the other thing there is that, you know, she's kind of his meal ticket also, because she's kind of like pays a very key part of his charlatanism.
Right.
Yeah.
But he is onto something.
It's like the faith healer that it's like she's like Marjo, right?
Right. Marjo Gortner.
Yeah.
I love that name. I would name something Marjo Gortner. Just to
name a cat Marjo Gortner.
Yes. No. But he is onto something too.
Sure.
Because obviously they don't exist, like they existed in a vacuum at one point from one another. She found out what he was writing about was something that she could correlate to something she experiences, and then goes to him, and then he realizes she's the thing that he's been
theorizing
about, and now it's here, and oh god, it's David Cronenberg.
Yep. They just got Cronenberg.
Yeah, and it's not gonna end well.
No.
It's gonna end gross, and it's gonna end gross. Super gross.
Yeah.
So here's where then a couple really, I think, key things happen. Very personal things, I think, from Cronenberg's real life perspective happen. He goes to his lawyer. Actually, first he goes to, I think he drops his daughter off at her grandmother's, who is
Nola's mom.
Nola's mom, right?
But to which she seems traumatized. Because it's just like I'm just so happy to be able to see my granddaughter.
Right.
Well, yeah, she has that thing like 30 seconds after you're born, you have a memory. 60 seconds after you're born, you've already altered that memory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
more specifically, it's 30 seconds after you are born, you have a past.
Oh, thank you.
And 60 seconds after you start lying to yourself about it.
Yeah.
Well, and then she even makes it seem like that she's been manipulated by Nola too.
Right.
Because like I don't even know what I'm supposed to believe. Like I always thought one thing, and now I'm being told it's something else. And it's
so Nola, through her therapy or whatever, has blamed her mother for her trauma. She has made it clear, I guess clear in air quotes, to Dr. Raglan through their sessions that Nola was somehow maybe beaten or verbally abused in some way by her mother, and that her father never stepped in to stop it, always looked the other way. So she never felt protected. God, there's a lot I could get into there in my own personal life that but I won't in my upbringing. But you know, it starts to kind of point a little bit at what is memory of trauma and what happened and what doesn't happen. And there have been lots of different therapies that have been pinpointed onto people, put onto people where they have manufactured memories.
Well, that's the other thing. What did you perceive
right.
versus what did actually happen? Because like I can
perception and reality, right?
Because this is.
What have you blocked? What trauma have you blocked? What trauma are you unlocking that's real? Or if it is real, what was it actually the result of? And what is your actual perception of that?
Right. Well, and on top of that, none of your memories are actually real. Because you are perceiving something, whether it's through the lens of nostalgia, through a lens of fear, through a lens of whatever, that it warps the memory. That it's exactly what Nola's mom said. And it's one of those things that it's like, I remember a time in which, long story short, I got stung by a bee. Now, everything around me and everything that happened at that time, I can very easily misremember. The one thing I can remember is like, ow, I got stung by a bee. But the situation, the location, the exact details, that's all going to be shifted and rearranged by my own brain. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's like, yeah, I had a trauma. I got stung by a bee, but everything else is perception versus reality at that point.
And this is kind of where it's interesting to think about Nola's character, and I don't think the movie gives her much sympathy, if any. And again, that's because this is all being filtered through the lens of the director, who has a very specific idea about his ex-wife, wrong or right. We don't know the story. Right. We don't know her. None of it. We can't. No one can pass judgment on that. All we can do is understand what Cronenberg is unleashing here, right? And at the heart of it, sympathy or not for his ex-wife, the heart of it is protecting his child.
Right.
And that's kind of where we get into the next scene, and maybe I haven't flip-flopped, but he goes to the lawyer and he's like, I need to get her out of there. She can't have these visitation rights. Her she's in danger. You know, if it's not Nola, it's someone else is abusing her there. What can we do? And this is where you kind of get that, you know, the frustration of the legal system.
Well, the lawyer says, I believe it's the lawyer said, the law
believes in motherhood.
Yes,
yep.
She does.
And that is very, very true in North America specifically, and probably most places too. Like most of the states here, it's no matter the evidence that can be brought, it will always side with the mother first, which that has been problematic at times, you know, because it's a bad situation with the mom, but the default is children stay with mothers, not with fathers.
So that's where Frank says, all right, well, I need another angle. I need to show that psychoplasmics are bad, like Dr. Raglan is dangerous, and that if my wife is under his spell and in her care, then it would also be bad for my child. And his lawyer basically says, "Ding, ding, ding. That's the right way of
you got
attacking
something
this."
interesting
Right.
here.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that's
kind of what propels our movie.
right, because after that he then goes to a guy who was under the care of Raglan, who is going to sue. While that's going on,
Before he does that, though, let's he goes and drops.
right,
daughter
that's what I was going to say. While he's
Yeah.
talking to him,
Right, here we go.
that's Candy is the daughter.
Yes,
She's a little despondent a lot too.
Cindy Hines. She was in The Dead Zone.
Mm-hmm.
She was also in another Canadian horror film called Deadline.
And she was not in Poltergeist, even though you might
Right.
think she
Yeah.
was.
You would think
Yeah.
you would think she's the little girl from Poltergeist, but she's not.
She is not, and she's not Cheryl Hines either.
No.
Just
That's-
Or
pretending.
Duncan Hines.
We're just pretending to be Cheryl.
Okay.
Anyway,
Not a tap dance either.
so so she is there with Grandma, and Grandma's like, "Oh, this is nice. Let's look at some family pictures."
Yeah.
After I refill my drink, and after I refill my drink, oh my God.
Uh-huh.
She and Oliver Reed's gonna
She's
have a
based
good
off
time.
of Oliver Reed.
Right.
They're lucky that they could find anything that looked brown on set for her to put in the glass.
It's Oliver Reed's piss.
Guess we'll recycle this. When she went to get a refresher, he had his chopper hanging out. I'll tell that story later. And it just refilled it for her.
Chopper.
That's what he called his penis.
Oh, that's amazing. So so she's like, "Yeah, here's some pictures," and Candy's like, "This is my favorite picture," and it's of her mom. One of the many times that she had to go to the hospital.
And it is Candy, though, right? In this
Yeah.
picture, it's the same. It is.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's her mother, yeah.
It's supposed to be her mother, but it's a picture of her.
Right.
So
Right.
it's
Yeah.
kind of, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And so it's like, "Oh, that's your favorite." It's like, "Yeah, your mom, when she was born, she had all of these skin conditions that the doctor didn't know what it was."
And they just kept coming back.
And they just kept coming back, and they couldn't figure out what it was, which is, I think, the truth of the story,
Yep.
that she had these things that would come across looking like bruises or bites or needle point, or like putting a cigarette out on somebody, a blister that's created by that.
So you're thinking her mom did not abuse her?
No.
Okay.
I don't think she did.
That's interesting.
I think it's the trauma of being in the hospital that she drew the correlation of, well, I had to be there for some reason.
Right.
I was beaten, or I was, whatever.
Okay.
But she's like, "Yeah, we didn't know." And then she's like, "Well, I'm going to go get a refresher on our drinks." But she also heard some noises.
Yeah.
That a thing came in through a cabinet.
Yeah. A short person
Well, it came
thing.
in through the grocery door.
Oh yeah, that's what that is.
the
isn't
milk
it?
and juice drop off. Yeah.
It is. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it pushes that shit right onto the floor.
Yep.
And we're calling it an it, and I think that's fair.
Absolutely.
But it's a little it in a little snowsuit.
Yeah.
And that the thing when she sees it and it's up in the corner, or like it's on
It's
top
some
of a
fucking
cabinet or something,
phantasm shit,
it's
man.
so creepy.
It's creepy as hell. Well, when you first see it, but she is masking it with her own head, the way the shot
Yes,
is composed,
yes.
and it's so fucking good. Like, he's waiting. He's giving you about 3 or 4 times in the scene, teasing
You've seen an arm,
the creature. Yeah.
yeah.
And then when you finally see it like hunched up on the cabinet,
yeah.
yeah.
Woo. And this thing has grabbed a mallet,
It's a meat tenderizer.
a meat tenderizer, and it tenderizes some meat.
Tenderizes the head meat.
Yeah, the head meat.
does
Yep. By the way, these things would be really good at meat tenderizing.
Yeah.
That's all they do.
They'd also be really good in Willy Wonka's factory.
Mmm.
Well, maybe not.
Oh boy, yikes! That's a whole different movie.
That's a big yikes.
David Cronenberg's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Willy Wonka's
I'm not gonna lie.
Manifest.
I'd watch that fucking movie.
Yeah, I would too.
I mean, isn't that basically what Tim Burton's version was?
No.
It was gross.
It had
was gross.
some family trauma.
Sure did.
Yep.
It sure did.
Yeah.
Now I need to go back and watch it.
I hate that
It's
movie.
not
A different
good.
lens.
It's not a
I
good
don't.
movie.
Well, I didn't like it either. But maybe if I pretend it's Cronenberg, I can find some value.
What happened to Tim Burton? Anyway, so so she gets beaten but good, and the cops call.
So a couple
Frank.
things. So a couple things I think real quick. What's her name? The little
Candy.
girl? Candy. Thank you. She walks in the kitchen, sees her grandmother pummeled to death, and then she sees a little like flash of a little creature.
Little hands.
Yeah.
Little hands
Great shot. It's one of the famous shots of the movie. The hands behind the banister of the stairs, and leaves the bloody imprint, and it scurries away up the stairs.
Yeah.
She has literally no reaction to any of
No,
this.
she's completely kind of like blank.
Yeah.
She's got her trauma now.
So that's happening while Frank is talking to Hartog,
Mushroom Neck.
Jan Hartog, played by the great Robert Silverman, who was in a bunch of Cronenberg movies. He's in Scanners. He's in Naked Lunch. He's even in Cronenberg's episode that he directed of Friday the 13th, the series.
Really?
Yeah.
Thank God for subtitles here, because this guy was hard to understand.
Yeah, a little
He's
bit.
got a speech impediment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He kind of talked a little bit like Homestar Runner.
But he is suing Raglan, and he pretty much is like, I'm not suing for money, I'm not suing for any compensation really. He is suffering from terminal lymphoma,
Yep.
which is manifested as tumors on his neck at this point. It's very late stage. He's not going to make it. It's probably part of the reasons why you're not supposed to understand him very well, right?
Right.
And he's like, but I'm suing him, even though I know I'm not going to win, for revenge. Because if people start to, think, psychoplasmics causes cancer, that's bad for business.
Right.
And maybe I'll save some people from going there. It's like, I can't prove that Raglan caused my cancer, but I think he did. And I'm going to try and save other people from the same fate.
Right.
Which is a pretty noble cause.
Right. Yeah, he knows he's going to get laughed out of court.
Right. So he's creating bad publicity for Raglan.
It's planting a seed of doubt.
Yeah.
Which is fair enough.
So essentially Frank is and Hartog are like, can we help each other here? It sounds like we have the same mission, but from different angles. If I can help in any way, let's keep that door open, because we both have ultimately the same goal, is to bring down Raglan.
Frank does have one foot out the door half of this scene, so
Sure.
he's not fully on board with this.
Well, Jane Hartog
he
is
even
a
says,
little
how
bit
can you help
of
me?
eccentric.
Right.
And it's unclear, right?
But he's walking away while Hartog is still talking.
Well, he's also very much eccentric. He's like standing on a bed practically. He's like,
Well, he when he comes in, he's doing
rolling
yoga.
around.
He's like rolling around on the ground. He's like, woo!
because your lymphatic system is just like your blood system, but it doesn't have a heart, is what it says. So you got to move around to get all those
You got to move around.
juices flowing.
And it's clear that he's in some sort of hospital. I thought it was a little bit of a ward type of
I think it's his
situation.
own house. Because
I don't
when
know.
Frank goes back there later, it doesn't look like a hospital.
well, there are nurses.
Maybe there are
There
nurses.
is.
That's why I was thinking it was more like a ward.
It's
than it
a
was
care
hospital.
facility for sure.
Yeah.
But you're not wrong necessarily that it could be funded by him in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because he is trying to collect the victimized of Raglan.
That
which
is
you
true.
See later
He
when
does.
Michael ends up there.
He does. Yeah.
It's like anything to improve his case.
Right. So he and so that's when the cops call and it's like, hey, your mother-in-law is dead and we've got your daughter.
And we have to say real quick, sorry, and I'll make this quick. Raglan has talked to Nola and asked for all of her anger
Yes.
just before
Right.
the mother-in-law
That's right, because
dies.
that's when she's talking about like, I was, Daddy wasn't there to protect me and all. Because that he starts that conversation off by saying, "Don't you want Frank to be protective of your daughter?
Right.
Isn't that what parents are supposed to do?" And that's what gets her on the whole.
Yeah.
Daddy didn't stand up for me, so it's almost like she's projected that onto Frank too.
Right.
But she projects something else.
Yes.
Little goblins.
Yeah.
Yes.
Spoiler alert.
Little its.
Oof.
So this is Candy gets she's been taken by the police to the station while they wait for Frank to come pick her up.
And the little psychiatrist there, why did I say it like that? The psychiatrist there says, "Hey, to put it bluntly, your daughter's got some."
Should not react to this right.
She's
gonna need
something
to
is wrong
confront it.
here.
Yeah,
and
She saw something, we don't know what.
and she was incredibly difficult to wake. She basically had a shutdown.
Yeah,
which is fair to say because she doesn't say much for the rest of the movie.
Yeah. And here's where, when you, in the benefit of hindsight, you understand that she has come in contact with these its many times before.
They beat her up.
They're the ones who have caused the bruises, but she doesn't know how to talk about them.
Right.
Because they're little monster goblins.
And it happens later when finally like reality has come to a head and her father has seen the same thing that she has. Only then is she able to be able to talk about it in any way that makes any sense, because she can't make sense of it.
Right.
And like, who's gonna believe her? Yeah.
Right.
And the little goblins kind of look like her too.
Bro, exactly. That makes it way worse.
Right, because they look like her mother, who looked exactly like her when she was a child.
Right. So, so
Barton comes into town.
Barton, and I want to say Barton Fink. It's not Barton Fink. But Barton comes into town. That's the ex-husband. The father-in-law. They've been divorced for 10 years. He even says that it's difficult to come back because the ex-wife always makes it seem like they've never broken up.
Right.
But then the moment he goes to the old house to kind of put some things in order, he gets depressed. Plus he's depressed about the whole thing with Raglan. He's sucked into his memories, and now he's trapped in this thing. But he also decides to go to tell Nola, "Hey, your mom's dead." To which Raglan's like, "Nope. Can't do this."
Another moment where you think Raglan's just an asshole,
manipulating,
but really he's protecting everyone.
There's a couple things at play here, though, because Dad goes to confront Raglan to get his daughter. He doesn't even really realize he's confronting Raglan at this point. He just wants to see his daughter and tell her that her mom's dead.
Right.
Raglan seemingly wants to protect Nola from that information, and maybe protect the entire fucking town. Who knows?
The whole world, maybe?
But shouldn't he be start putting some things together? And I think he has. That Nola has caused this. And if he's not putting that together, knowing what he knows that we don't know yet of what's in the barn, right?
He's not very smart.
I think he's halfway there because he hasn't seen the broken window yet.
But I think
that's when he really, think, puts it all together.
But there's a little bit of irresponsibility that comes in his next session with Nola that does center around father, right? And we have father here who can expose all of this, that Raglan has a lot of motivation to keep hidden. So is Raglan now manipulating Nola to get him out of the picture? It maybe is a leap, I don't know, but I think it's there.
It's possible, or at the very least, knowing what we find out later that he's always known about, he has to have always known about because he stashes them in the attic.
Right.
He's irresponsible while maybe trying to do the right thing most of the time.
Padlocked in there. I don't think at this point he really realizes that
they've gotten out.
That they have gotten out and killed the mother, and that they get out. He doesn't really realize it until later.
Yeah.
We know when he realizes it.
Right.
I think that is there for sure to give him more of a redemptive arc.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he gets turned away. Meanwhile, Frank is like, "Hey, teacher. Hey, kindergarten teacher. I like your style. Want to come over for dinner and we'll talk about my daughter's.
Well, the
you know,
daughter
school?
actually sets this up. It's like the
Yeah.
cute puppy gives
Yeah.
you a date.
Right.
thing.
Exactly. And like, you know, and like Frank's like, all right, yeah, I'm willing to give this another try. I'll worry about my wife problem later. But which of course later is like 45 minutes from now. So they go and they have dinner. Frank gets a call from Barton.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, it's Barton. What he always says his full name. But anyway, he's like, I'm drunk and I'm mad at that place. They won't let me see my daughter.
I'm going to go get her.
I'm going to go get her
out of there.
and I'm drunk, so you have to take me there.
Yeah. And Frank is not supporting of this. So, but he's,
You know what it is? It's just if you're around Oliver Reed, you get drunk.
Well,
Yeah.
well, that's the other thing too. Is when the dad went to go to visit his daughter at the facility,
he's
Oliver
boozing.
Oliver Reed told his assistant, "Is like it's nothing. He's drunk," and he would know.
You know, it's you know, drunks are funny
but Frank gets,
until until we hear Oliver Reed's final story here.
Well, yeah.
Anyway, so Frank is like, all right, he's drunk. I'm just gonna pick him up and bring him here or whatever. Hey, lady teacher.
looking for a hair. Sorry.
Oh, hey, lady teacher, can you watch Candy? I'll be back in 45 minutes.
Here, read this book.
Read
written
this,
by
Dr.
Dr. Haglund.
Yeah, The
Yeah.
Shape of Rage by
And if you-
Dr. Raglan.
Yeah, if you like it, you can keep it. Get it the fuck out of my house. But anyway, so he's on the way there. Well, Barton gets attacked by a little monster thing because it's still in the house.
Yeah.
And now we find out later that it does have an off switch,
Yeah.
which is gross too, because it's like,
It has a certain amount of fluid in its.
well, what I mean, well, yeah, that's the gross thing. The scary thing about them is that they completely and totally react to an emotion, and if you're calm, it just sits there like in stasis.
Right.
Ugh. Anyway, so yeah, so
But Barton turns around when he sees it and he actually says, Nola?
right,
So, but he's like totally surprised, but he
Right.
thinks it looks like Nola.
yeah, he is really drunk.
And those balls that thing beats it up with, or beats him up with,
Oh yeah, like little yeah.
they almost look like snow globes. But
Yeah.
they're solid glass balls.
Yeah.
And it destroys him. Comes out from under the bed and kills Barton.
Right. And then Frank shows up and it's like, uh-oh, another death. And then he sees the thing
And it throws a ball through a wall. Like, these things are strong.
right through the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got that little kid throwing a ball right at your nuts strength.
Yeah. Yeah.
You should know, right?
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
dead.
Yeah. This happened before.
Yeah.
But it runs away from him into the bathroom. He goes to get it, basically.
I guess.
I don't know where the hell it's hiding because it jumps on his back from out of nowhere, but then it basically...
They're little acrobatic little
yeah,
things.
they are. They
Yeah.
are. But it dies. It like
It just
croaks.
dies.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so it ends up on a slab like a fucking alien
Tell you why I
autopsy.
appreciate this movie. Any normal movie, or normal, I won't say normal, but 90s or 2000s horror film, that thing would have disappeared. And
Yeah.
There'd be no evidence that it existed, right? There'd be some reason that they couldn't, but they actually have the body. And
Yeah, he takes it, and there's a scientific explanation to everything. You see this sack that's just kind of dangling off its back here. Well, apparently it's like a fuel tank.
yes,
So it runs off of ambionic fuel.
Jeff is gagging. He's gagging. You can't see it.
Gross.
It's super
so
gross.
gross. It's
but there's
super
two
gross.
other things to note about it. One,
No belly button.
no belly button, so it's motherless or not born by natural means, and it has no gender.
No gender.
No,
Yep.
no sex organs.
No sex organs. No gender. Cleft lip, but the palate is in place, which is another just weird thing because normally it's a cleft palate.
Yeah, that was, and it also said that, or the autopsy guy also said that it has no teeth, but its beak-like gums could put a nasty bite on you. All the description there is just, yes, I can see why Jeff is gagging.
I also agree, Chuck, wholeheartedly about the taking the mystery to some degree out of the creature, right? Because it's
But the mystery comes back because where the fuck do those things come from?
right. That it answers one question, but it asks another.
Right.
And that's what good storytelling should do.
Right.
You're right. A contemporary horror film would just keep that thing a really frustrating mystery that
would
the
make it
audience has
supernatural.
already answered. Right. The audience says, the little girl sees these things. Like this is happening. Like
Right.
some little creature is killing people. Right. Why let our main characters stay ignorant of that fact?
Right.
The entire fucking movie. Let's answer that question. And then let's ask another one.
Right.
Yeah.
They would make it supernatural,
Yeah.
which there is a supernatural element here
Sure.
just by the pure nature of what supernatural
Yeah.
means as a compound word.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, in contemporary horror, they'd bring in the Warrens.
Oh, God. Yeah.
And then we would have a whole nother set of...
Are you telling me they'd conjure up some shit?
yes.
Yes, they would.
Yeah, yes. And then we would have a whole nother set of charlatans.
We'd have
took 'em
Nola
down.
instead of
Take that,
Annabelle.
old
Epic
people.
takedown. Jeff, 2 points. Oh, no. Oh, this whole episode has now been sullied.
Okay, so so now he goes home, to which the teacher's like, she got a call from Nola. I don't know why she calls home, but it's like she answers like, oh, you having a private little talk about my daughter or whatever.
PTA meeting,
Yeah.
a private PTA
Well, she
meeting.
calls home because they have to like create a motivated reason for the next kill.
Exactly.
It's a bit of contrived plotting.
But
yeah.
whatever. It's a creepy call.
But it also could make perfect sense.
yeah, because she just starts screaming, "You're killing my family!"
I do wish that they had set that
Which
up earlier
that's a
with a call from Nola home that
Fair
maybe
enough.
I think
Frank
she
took
did
or
use
something.
the phone once, and someone told her she's not allowed to use the phone.
Yeah, okay.
Earlier in the movie,
oh, that's right. Yeah. Ooh.
but she has
But
a
yeah,
phone anyway.
she
so I don't know
does-
why
she started-
has a
Right,
phone.
yeah.
Right. But she starts screaming, "You're killing my family," which that's a clue.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, Frank comes home and goes upstairs, and it's like because the teacher's like, "Yeah, your life's a little complicated," which honestly, that's a fair that's a fair assessment in a.
I don't blame Miss Mayer even a little.
Yeah, because that's a fair assessment because until you deal with whatever this battle is, this shit sucks.
Yeah.
Right.
This is not good for anybody. You don't want to bring anybody else into this. So she takes off and he goes upstairs.
She
and is
beats
like,
cheeks.
she beats cheeks. She sure does. And then she gets her cheeks beat later.
Yeah, she does.
Oh,
Anyway, so he goes upstairs and it's like, "Hey, Candy, I know what you've seen. So, care to talk about it?" And that's when she's like, "Yeah, it's like these things are. I've seen these things, or I know what these things are."
I don't think she even says that. Frank just tells her, "I've seen it, and it's dead."
And it's dead, and there's nothing to worry about anymore. Which, yeah. But that gives her the confirmation and the comfort she needs to process.
Right.
And later she does. Yeah, it is later when she's like, kind of explains that she sees these things. Anyway,
Yep.
so at this point, I guess it's like, all right, well, we're going to take you to school. Everything is fine. We're kind of getting into the final act here.
Yeah,
Really.
for sure.
Yeah, Mike has shown up at Hargot's house. Hartog, thank you, Hartog. And Miss Mayer, or what's her name? Candy is going to school. That's
Yeah.
what's kind of
Yeah,
happening.
and there's one real key thing. At some point, the doc realizes something's not right,
Yeah.
and he tells his other
Well, I
doctor.
don't think this happens until after
After Miss Mayer died.
Miss Mare dies. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
This is when he's like, wait a minute. What? Yeah.
Right. So yeah. So at this point now, Frank has taken Candy to school. Another teacher is like, "Hey, Frank, let's chat. I kind of like your style."
Yeah.
he is like Art Hindle was the boss of that school.
I mean, he's Mr. Available. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, and he's got a cute little daughter. It's like he's a good dad. You know, everything's coming up. Frank.
He's the number one prospect. Yep.
It's a small town. You grab him up when he's got the chance. But anyway, we realize, so we see the teachers like setting everything out, and all the kids are putting their jackets away. And then there's two exactly identical sized kids.
I love this
scene. This scene is scary
because the outfit that Candy is in is very similar to the killers, if not exactly.
Just different colors. Yeah.
And I'm like, why the hell is she in that outfit? And then all the kids are dressed like that. And when you see it from the top shot, like, I'd never seen this movie. And I immediately was thinking, one of them is in there. Right.
And there's
all the kids look the same.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but I think it's Cindy. When they start showing her from the different angle, it's almost like, wait a minute.
Candy.
Yeah. Is it Candy that is the...
Well, Candy's little snowsuit is red.
Right.
So when these two show up and they're wearing green and blue or whatever, it's like, uh-oh. And they're exactly identically sized. And it's like, they just stand there like they're just waiting.
Well, they go and put Cindy in, or Candy. Now you've got me.
I know. Sorry, the actor's name is Cindy.
His insanity is rubbing off on you.
Yeah, that happens in relationships. But they go and put Candy in another room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I thought she was still in the other room while everyone was looking for her everywhere else. I'm like, well, isn't she just in the other room?
No, they made off of her.
They beat cheeks.
They yeeted. They yeeted out of there.
Oh no!
Stop!
They beat Yeats.
God.
They eat beets. What?
Yes. Bears Beats and Battlestar Galactica. Sorry, but anyway, these two little fuckers kill Ruth Mayer in front of a class of 20 children.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
and it's really devastating.
And it's like with those little toy hammers. I was like, oh, those aren't going to do. Oh my god!
And the little kid reaction shots. Oh. Yeah.
Well, one
terrible.
kid is smart and he takes off.
Yeah.
And he's like, I got to go get help. And he runs outside. And of course, Frank is still there. He's weighing his options.
He's still chatting up. Yeah.
He's still weighing his options with the various single teachers in town.
Uh-huh.
And then he's like, wait, what? What do you see? Like, they killed Miss Mayer.
They're beating Miss Mayer.
And so he goes in and he realizes this looks a lot like what it looked like when my father-in-law died. And it's like, okay, where's Candy? Nobody knows. Well, I mean, the kids are obviously traumatized. Man, this trauma is really spreading through this town like a fucking rabies.
Yeah, like a
rabbit,
like a Cronenberg.
But I think, maybe after Barton dies, I'm kind of getting things mixed up because Dr. Hagelin at some point does let all the people go, and during this scene, Mike is at.
Right. So
what's his name?
Well, yeah, because I think it's after Frank dies because he has the conversation with Michael.
You mean Barton?
Barton dies. Yeah, he has the conversation with Michael and he says, because he's like, dude, take it down a notch. It's like you're just crazy. You're just a weirdo, and like because he keeps saying it's like. Oh, he will you be my daddy?
Yeah, he's like he won't do it anymore, so you have to be my daddy.
Right,
I'll give you all the info you need if you'll just be my daddy.
Yeah. And so
he also says something about Raglan.
There's going to be leather
Raglan made me
shit.
addicted to him, and now he's taken that away.
Right, and it's like, so where's Nola? Oh no, she stayed behind. She's the queen bee.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, okay, you're just weird. You're just jealous, is what the first impression I think he gets. And so then he ends up running across Michael again, who's just kind of like running loose in the town.
Okay, so wait, let me back it up just a little bit. The little people take Cindy away.
Yes, and we see them walking down the street.
Yes, and he goes and looks at the old apartment that Candy lived in with Nola. That's when they see the picture. He's there with the cops, and they're like investigating, trying to find out where Candy is gone. When Michael goes home, or Frank, goes home.
That's when Michael shows up.
That's when Michael shows up, and he says, "What does he say?" She can make he basically tells him like she can make little people or something.
Yeah, like there's something he knows something is being hidden.
Yes,
there.
he knows that the little people. It's the little people. The little people are doing it. They're hiding above the shed.
Yes,
and he's all like kind of frazzled, so it doesn't really make sense. But this is when Frank goes. This is basically the climax of the
There's
film.
also a scene a little earlier after the teacher is killed in a session between Raglan and Nola. Or not, it's not even necessarily a session. I think it's just conversation where Nola says, I don't feel threatened by her anymore. I don't know why. I just don't feel threatened by her anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
That is also the same scene in which, because Raglan's already figured some stuff out. And that's also the scene in which...
If he doesn't have it figured out by now...
He's an idiot.
Yeah.
But he's figured out a lot. And this is when he says, well, I might as well take you as a lover.
Yeah.
To which he realizes that when she's calm, everything is nice and easy going.
Mm-hmm.
But when she's angry, something ends up happening.
But the lock clicks for him when Frank shows up and said they've killed Ruth Mayer, and he's like, Ruth Mayer's dead?
Yeah.
That's when he really like, okay.
Yeah.
She's controlling, he's seen the broken window. She's controlling these little fuckers and making them go kill people. Not
So now
on purpose, really.
Right.
She has no idea she's doing it.
Yes,
Right.
but
Yeah.
she gets the relief from their deaths.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then he says, you have to go and convince her that you want to work things out. You need to go to her and be what he said. He says a specific term that's like, oh, okay, yeah, like basically you have to kind of
Calm her down.
well, you got to keep her calm, because if she's calm, I can go in and get candy.
Yeah, he wants him
But
to tell her that, that he wants to get back together, that they
that you
they
have
wanna
to be
a
the
family.
understanding husband,
Right.
and that right. And so Frank is like, that's the last thing I want to do. But it's like, I've got all these teachers lined up. Some of them have died, and unfortunately they've been knocked off the top. But anyway, no. So he goes in, and she's kind of just like chilling, like on her little mattress on the floor.
She's not really chilling. She looks majestic almost. Like,
Yeah.
She looks like the queen bee now, like the mother of the hive.
Well, she's got a weird gown on that has two slats.
Yep.
But that's that we don't know that until we get the big fucking gross reveal.
Dude, this scene is so great.
It's awesome.
It's
But
so
she's-
great the way it all...
But yeah, so like
carried out.
he says, hey, yeah, so I think we should try to understand each other. He's really trying not to say I want to get back together. So you can see it.
Oh, he says, I want to be a part of what you're...
But he wants to
Going through.
but what he's saying is I want to build understanding. He's not saying let's go home and have a family. He's just basically saying it's like, yeah, I want to understand what you're dealing with. Like, I think we should understand each other and everything that's going on. And then she's like, no, you don't. And she's kind of got this look on her face. Like, she is angry that he is there.
Well, it kind of goes down like she dares him to... He says he wants to accept her. And she's like, are you sure? Pretty much. It's a challenge because she reveals what he is actually going to have to accept.
And she's definitely not angry yet.
Well,
because
she's not angry
She's
yet.
not angry in the least.
She's not angry until she sees his reaction.
When he kind of like he's repulsed
And
by
her-
what he sees,
and
which is fair.
Eggers is so good in this.
Yep.
When the way she delivers it, because basically this is when she births.
Well, so
one of
she's got like an egg sack thing on her lap.
She's got several of them.
She throws open
in different stages of pupa.
yeah. So she throws open her gown, and there's this thing. It looks like it's attached to her thigh, and it's like a black egg sac. And she just rips that fucking thing
She
open.
bites
She
it
bites
open.
it open.
And then she pulls out a thing. A
But while
baby.
that is happening, you have Raglan upstairs,
Like
and
trying
you
to
have,
get candy.
30 of the little what do we call
Its.
them? It's
Well,
and they all
little
look like
murder
Candy,
monsters.
so he can't figure out who Candy is. And as the scene downstairs progresses, they start stirring
Right.
a little bit.
Right.
And every shot of him has one of them like in the background, just creepily sitting there. It's so
It-
Or being
You know-
startled awake or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
so good.
Yeah.
You know what it reminded me of? And this is stupid as fuck, but I'm going to say it anyway. It reminded me of First Contact. When
Oh, man. Oh, okay.
there's always like a board like
Yeah,
right behind the main people, you know?
That's
and it's
not
like that
stupid
thing
either.
that thing's gonna wake up and you're fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally. It's that kind of tension for sure.
and they are hive mind.
They are hive mind.
And
yeah.
he finds Candy and he starts to walk her out. And that's when Nola has revealed, that she's birthing these creatures in the most disgusting way possible. And she has birthed one in front of him and starts licking the afterbirth off of the child. I guess you could call it a child. And which
Is it afterbirth in this scenario or is it yolk?
it's yeah.
It's both.
It's goo. It's goo.
It's red strawberry, probably something strawberry flavored goo.
And Frank is trying to remain neutral, but he can't.
He wants to
Impossible.
barf.
It's
He can't.
impossible.
I want to barf.
And
He's
she
like, "Oh."
and Egger says, "No, I disgust you. I sicken you. You hate me."
Right.
Oh, and it's so good. Like it is. She sells that shit. Oh,
So yes, and upstairs, Raglan has grabbed Candy. He's walking out with her, but I don't know why or how. Like they all get up. Like once she's getting angry, saying, "You
Brood.
disgust me." Whatever. The Brood stands up, and they all go after Raglan. And-
But he sends Candy to the door and it's like, you got to unlock that door and get out of here.
yeah,
It's
To
like,
which she
and he's
does.
got a gun.
yeah. She just stands in the doorway. Damn
Well,
you,
she
Candy.
she struggles with the lock at first.
Yeah.
And I
She-
think that's ultimately her undoing because she has to go hide in the closet.
She hides in the closet, and Raglan's got them all like crawling all of them.
He's got a gun. He's shooting.
them.
I thought he was going to shoot Candy.
I mean, at some point in time, Oliver Reed was probably like, "Is this really realistic? I would have killed all these things."
No, what he's
I
what
can't
he's
be
saying.
overtaken by children.
Right.
What he's saying is like, is this real life or is this a drunken haze I'm in?
But they eventually take him down, and then they go after Candy,
Yeah.
and that's when another one of the kind of the famous shots is them breaking through the door, and with her inside the closet holding the door behind her, and you can see them breaking through. It's kind of a little bit Shining-esque.
Yes, and all because Nola has said, "I'd rather
Yes.
have Candy die than you take her."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's when those things are like, okay, it's time to kill
Time to
Candy.
kill Candy. Yep. So what
That's
does Frank have to do?
Well, he just throttles her.
Yeah, he's given really no choice, and
He's got to choke her out.
he's got to strangle her. She's like basically eggs him on to do so.
Man.
She's
He's
like,
such
yes,
an
kill me,
egger.
kill me. Like it's almost like she wants to bring his anger out too,
Yeah,
because maybe that's the only level that they can understand each other at this point.
He's just blind rage.
Yeah.
Again, that can happen with the toxic relationship.
So he does. He strangles her to death, which kills all the Brood. And
That's going to be something to have to explain later.
right, but not really because the
cops
police
already
already
know
know about it. They're
Yeah.
like, we found this earlier.
he has all the appropriate evidence to
Yep.
clear whatever he's done for
Right,
sure.
totally. I mean, she's still got like fucking
She's holding one.
sacks.
She's
Yeah,
holding one. There's
totally.
a bunch upstairs dead. Like it's that's pretty clear cut.
How fast do you think these things grow? Because that one was a baby.
I don't know.
I bet you it would have been full size tomorrow.
Probably. Ugh.
Blah. But
Talk about your growing
so
pains.
it seems like everything's going to be okay. Frank's taking Candy away. They're driving away, and then you get that kind of devastating stinger shot of the blisters forming on Candy's arm.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, fuck.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, but hopefully, she's not going to be well adjusted. Look at what she had to deal with.
But it's the same. It's the same blisters that her mother was getting admitted to the hospital for constantly. It's a cycle of trauma has
It's the literal representation
Yeah.
of the scars that trauma will leave on
Right.
Candy.
right, and not only scars, but like actual physical manifestation of of trauma again that she may or may not be able to control. Like it will it be her undoing?
Right,
like
for the
it was her
horror's,
mother's undoing.
for the horror's sake,
Yeah.
100%. Yes,
Yeah.
and for the sake of what I think Cronenberg is trying to say is that yes, she's emotionally scarred by her parents' separation.
Well, I know. I guess what I'm saying is scarring implies that you have been healed.
Oh, okay.
Right.
That's fair.
And in this case, she's not been healed. She is again going to perpetuate the same disease.
Well, I think emotional scars is then misused in general because usually you're not healed if you have emotional scars.
Yeah. Fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a sad ending. That's The Brood.
That is.
Um,
This isn't an easy movie to watch.
Nope.
However, like I said, I would like to watch it again to watch Oliver Reed more closely, because I do think that he is way more in the know than we are aware, and we're only seeing things from Frank's point of view.
I think he's more scared than authoritative half the movie. Like when you think he's being an asshole,
he's scared.
He's really terrified of what he's unleashed and doesn't know how to control it.
Right.
And he's still trying to rein that in. I mean, for Christ's sake, he lets everyone go.
Yeah.
Right? Like he's like, you need to get these other people
get
out of here.
Get them out of here.
Dangerous for them. But at the time when you see it, you're like, he wants to concentrate on this one superstar he has, but that's not the case at all.
That's not really the case. And but he's wound everybody up to the point where that's all that they believe that he's
Steph told me that she wished there was a lot more Michaels. Like they delved into the cult and how many people really believed what Raglan was selling.
This could make for a really interesting remake, all things considered, with like modern psychiatry, the armchair, like the TV guy, like a Dr. Phil. You know, it's like people really think that he knows what he's talking about. He's an asshole. He's a fuckface. Literally. I don't know what that means. But anyway, I literally think he's a fuckface. That's what I meant by that. But at the same time, though, it's like he does kind of tap dance around real concepts, but he uses it and packages it and sells it in a way that is easy for people who just want to feel like they are dealing with something to deal with. So you could take something like that. You could take the cult mentality that a lot of modern day people feel for various things they shouldn't feel for, all that parasocial relationship shit. And you could probably remake this movie in a way that is very modern while still getting to the thing. And you could find out that there are several different people, whether it's female or male or whatever, that have these things, that have this kind of manifestation.
I think when you talk about some of the cult aspects, Chuck, I think he does explore that in other movies. Probably most significantly Videodrome.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit in Scanners. So I think that he wasn't interested in answering that question in this movie,
right.
But he does go there in other movies. Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, I've seen those movies, so yeah, I know what you mean.
Yep.
Yeah, this is kind of a weird aside, but for aesthetic purposes, really not necessarily intellectual ones, I feel like Panos Cosmatos took a little bit of The Brood and put it in his Beyond the Black Rainbow with the Arborea Institute. I don't know. It's a movie that I think is just ripe for revisitation, for in-depth analysis, for repeat viewings, even though it is difficult.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. It's one that's grown on me over the years. That's not one that I really particularly stood out. Yeah, it grew on me. Yeah.
It grew on you. You're going to birth your opinions?
Remember, we're in radio here.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So is it growing on your thigh, or are you going to bite that fucker right out? And it's like, look at my opinion.
but it's
hold it up
definitely
like Lion King?
it's definitely one of it's gone kind of top tier Cronenberg for me. This movie.
This is a really, really good movie, and it's like, and I think kind of going back to the idea that this could be very easily updated. It needs somebody who's going to have a straightforward approach to the update and expansion of it. Because if you add 10 minutes to the runtime of this, you could have a lot more Michael scenarios, right?
Right.
But yeah, like, to advertise again, I do the remake of Rabid in 5 weeks on Monster Mondays, and that is not a straightforward remake, but it is its own thing, and it's fine for it being its own thing. If it's going to be remade, this needs to be a straightforward remake and not it needs to be pastiche. It does not need to be I'm going to put all these other things and other concepts and conceptual ideas that I think about when I think about this movie into it.
Yeah. I mean, I would entertain, I think, a remake. But again, I think if I'm wanting to answer some of those questions, I'm looking to Cronenberg's later work for those answers. I'm looking at movies like Spider, which is very much about a mental illness and schizophrenia and the genetics and trauma behind that. I'm looking at his movie that he made about Sigmund Freud, right? He's constantly going back to those types of themes and trying to derive answers.
It's probably he's going back to try to figure out, like, he's trying to reconcile that whole thing that this movie was born out of. Yeah, probably.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's that's the mother of one of my children.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I need to reconcile this somehow.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I mean, yeah, that can happen in a lot of scenarios that isn't toxic or a bad situation.
Mm-hmm.
So
I have a question.
Yeah.
What about Oliver Reed?
Oh yeah, you got to tell some of these Oliver Reed stories. So we need to end this on a happier.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't know if it's really happy,
but
should I tell it? All right.
No, I want to hear the story about his hog.
All right. So a couple things here. Not this totally unintentionally. I decided for the first time to watch The Who's Tommy, directed by Ken Russell, which stars Oliver Reed. And then I was like, oh shit, I'm watching The Brood for this podcast. So I watched that. That was the next thing I watched. So I was kind of on an Oliver Reed kick. And then I had this movie that I had bought from Arrow way back when that I never watched called Hired to Kill that has Brian Thompson and Oliver Reed in it. And it looked totally bonkers, and it is. And so I watched that. And
then I mentioned Cat People.
Right.
The guy in that is named Oliver Reed.
So all of this sent me down an Oliver Reed rabbit hole. And so I was digging into extra features, special features on the Brood disc and on the Hired to Kill disc. And I'm kind of gathering Oliver Reed stories. And the one Oliver Reed story that I found specifically from the Brood was that he had a connecting flight in like Connecticut or something on his way to Canada to shoot the Brood. And he ended up in a bar like Oliver Reed would. He would have been in his 40s, early 40s when he made the Brood. And
God, I look so much younger than he.
And he challenged the people in the bar that he would walk to his hotel completely naked in like really, really cold weather. It was winter. I think, obviously it was winter because of the shots in the Brood. But yeah, and he did it, and he got arrested, and he got taken to jail. And I think one of the producers of the Brood helped get him out or bail him out or something.
God damn it!
And because he got a phone call, and then this guy asked him, "He's like, why do you do this? Why do you do these things?" And he said, "Well, I had a publicist early in my career that said the only thing that's important is that you stay relevant and in the news." And it's like, what better way to do that than to get arrested? And that was his thing. He's like, he didn't care. He was like, as long as I'm in the news,
and sometimes he's in the nudes too.
Yeah, and he's in the nudes. Yeah. So, but so I was like, all right, well, that's interesting, but it's not like a great story. What is this fascination with stripping, and apparently that was his thing. Like, he liked to show his penis. He yeah,
regular old Weinstein.
Yeah, he on the set of Hired to Kill, he would have been about 50 when that movie was made. There was the Brian Thompson is telling the story. And Brian Thompson is like, everyone on set had an Oliver Reed story, but I can't vouch for any of those because I didn't see them. I'm only going to tell stories that I was eyewitness to.
By the way, remind listeners who
Brian Thompson. I'm fascinated with Brian Thompson. I don't know why, but he is the Night Slasher in Cobra. Brian Thompson is a fantastic interview. Every time he's interviewed for a movie, especially the Cobra disc. If you have Cobra, the Shout Factory release of Cobra, watch the Brian Thompson interview. It is amazing. But I saw that he did an interview for Hired to Kill. I was like, I am watching that. And sure enough, he had an Oliver Reed story. So it's the final shot of the movie, and it's this helicopter shot. It's kind of this above, obviously it's helicopter shot, so it's from above. And it's kind of like the big money shot. It's a very expensive production shot. And all Oliver Reed has to do is stand in the middle of a group of armed soldiers that are converging upon him, drop his gun to the ground and put his hands in the air. What he does instead is pull out his penis. The director of the film lost his shit. It's like, get him the fuck out of here. I don't want to see him again. Apparently he'd been a problem almost every day. And I was like, I don't want to see him again. We'll just put in a stand in, and we'll get the shot another way. Well, Oliver Reed couldn't understand it. He's like, why is he so angry at me? He's like, the director yelling from a megaphone. He looks at Brian Thompson, who's off screen. He says, Brian Thompson said he looked right at me, and he said, Brian, what's the problem?
What?
It's like I feel like they're coming to kill me, right? And I'm not going to be able to kill them, and I wouldn't drop my gun. I would pull out my penis because then they'll just think I'm crazy. It's like, no, it's like I'll pull out my chopper and then they'll just think I'm crazy. Sure, that's great logic. Apparently his chopper was also tattooed and very large. He was a well-endowed man and he liked to show it off. Yeah.
I don't want that. I don't want to tattoo my chopper.
But interestingly, contradictory almost, is that mostly everyone he worked with, actors especially, said he was absolute joy to work with. He was always drunk, but he always showed up on time. He always showed up ready to work. Always knew his lines. Samantha Egger said a lot of this in the Brood interview that she did. He's like, he was absolute joy. I worked with him several times. She knew him since he was a child. It's like, I never had a problem with Oliver. Always great to work with. Always very professional on set, other than, I guess, later when he's pulling his penis out. But he was also very soft-spoken. He was never very gregarious on set. He didn't try to bully people. He was really actually pretty well liked. There is
one interview from the late 70s or early 80s on Johnny Carson where he got into it with a woman.
Oh,
because she was like, well, you're just being misogynistic or whatever, and he's like, oh, whatever, honey. And it's it just exasperated it.
Yeah.
Almost just to troll her.
Yeah.
And it was not good. It's not a good look, but he was probably pissed drunk.
He's probably pissed drunk. He's also in publicity mode.
Yeah.
And he is, but he's also, I would never go out to say that he wasn't misogynistic. He said he had two goals in life other than acting. And
show his chopper to everything.
And it was to I think get drunk in every bar in England or something like that, or drink England dry and sleep with every woman. There were his two main goals in life. So that's Oliver Reed.
Isn't there a story about him drinking England dry and?
Well, he drank Malta dry. Yeah.
Oh, Malta. Yeah.
So this was I got to pull up the Wikipedia for this.
So this is during
shooting of Gladiator.
Gladiator. So famously, Gladiator was Oliver Reed's last movie. His last scene is not him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when he gets stabbed and killed, it's not him.
No, so he was cast by Ridley Scott in Gladiator.
He is very good in Gladiator.
He was very good in almost everything he did, to be quite honest.
That's fair. By the way,
very good actor.
One of these days I'll get around to Curse of the Werewolf, the Hammer movie.
Yeah. I have not seen that either.
It's good. It's real good.
It's
one of his first movies, I think.
Ridley Scott didn't want to cast him he had also cast Oliver Reed's friend and also very good British actor David Hemmings, who's been on the podcast. Deep Red, yeah.
You mean Paul McCartney?
Yeah.
But you mean the guy that your wife really doesn't like?
Oh, she hated him in that movie, yeah. So David Hemmings told Ridley Scott, look, I'll keep him in line. I think he'd be great for the role. You think he'd be great for the role. You know, he's about 60 now. Oliver Reed is. He's like, it'll be fine. I'll be his babysitter, essentially. The Ridley Scott said, okay, we'll do it. Witnesses vary, but some say he hadn't been drinking at all a couple months previous to the film being shot. Other people say that Ridley Scott told him that the condition that he had for him was that he couldn't drink while in production, right? But other people say that Oliver Reed got around that by drinking on the weekends, right?
When no production.
When there was no production. So there's this loophole, right? So was he drinking beforehand or not? Probably he was drinking. So what ends up happening, and I'm just going to read this verbatim. According to witnesses, he drank 8 pints of German lager, this was on a break during shooting Gladiator at a bar in Malta. According to witnesses, he drank 8 pints of German lager, a dozen shots of rum, a half bottle of whiskey, and a few shots of Hennessy cognac in a drinking match against a group of sailors on shore leave from HMS Cumberland at a local pub. His bar bill totaled a little over $590. This is my favorite part. After beating 5 much younger Royal Navy sailors at arm wrestling. That's amazing. Reed suddenly collapsed, dying while en route to hospital in an ambulance. He was 61 years old.
That man died doing what he loves.
Absolutely.
That is absolutely true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he actually kind of predicted his death, too, years earlier. He said that he would die in a bar of a heart attack, probably making good on some bet. Yeah, is basically what he said. Yeah.
Yeah, he did. And Malta is still reeling 21 years later.
David Hemmings promised to look after him and said to me, this is Ridley Scott, upon his death, I'm really sorry, old boy.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Oh, that's good. That's good. All right. So, are we? Do we think we've brooded the brood?
I think we've done it.
Okay. Next week we're going to continue Spooky Times. We're going to cover the movie we thought we were going to cover last year and got thwarted with another decent movie, but we got thwarted. But this year we're going to talk about Carrie. The original version, not the many remakes or sequels that movies had.
Yes.
So yeah, that's going to be good. I think that's going to be fun. We're going to get a little John Travolta, a little maniac John Travolta.
Yeah.
2 Academy Award nominees in Sissy Spacek and I can't think of her name now. The mother, yeah.
Is that Piper Laurie?
Piper Laurie.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. It was right there, and then I said it, and then it didn't happen.
The only reason I know can recall that name is because she's in Twin Peaks.
Did you know the log lady was ran camera on Star Trek 2?
I sure did.
Yep, there you go. Anyway, so that's going to happen next Wednesday as Spooky Month continues. Speaking of spookies and spooky months and decisions I wish I'd never made, if you go over to my website, B Movie Anima, I am still about balls deep into Resident Evil.
Oh, God.
And hating it. But this Friday, we've got Resident Evil Extinction, which is my favorite movie of the series because it's not stupid. It's stupid. It's not totally stupid. It's a little stupid. So that should be good. This Saturday, the episode of B Movie Anima, the series, season 2, episode 5, The Night of the Strangler, starring Mickey Dolenz.
Sweet.
I talk about the monkeys a lot in that.
Not surprised.
But I will also say I do caution viewers. It is a movie about racist white people
Let them find out. Let them.
Well, I put the warning there.
Yeah.
I put the warning there. So maybe you don't want to really watch the movie if you have adverse reaction to certain words being used. And I wouldn't blame you. Just watch my bits. Not just my bits. It's also...
Watch your chopper.
Not that. Don't watch my chopper. Don't ever see my chopper. I wouldn't advise it. No, yeah, watch the bits with the Enema Man and Nurse Disembody. Those are the good bits. Those are the good parts of the episodes. All right, so that's what's going on. Find all of our stuff at filmseizure.com. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We got the various podcast places. If you go to filmseizure.com, there's a whole little thing on the right side of the screen that says all the places you can listen to us. So just do that. Smash that like button on YouTube and just beat the shit out of the subscribe
With a mallet.
With the mallet. And
The
do
meat
that.
tenderizer.
Yeah. So yeah, do those things because there are some things coming in 2022 that we'll talk a little bit more about before the end of the year that you will definitely want to find on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah. So until next week, when we go to the prom and pull a very shitty, very, very shitty prank on a poor girl, I have been Jeff Arbuckle.
I am still Chuck Moore.
I am also still Jason Oliver, and you have still been listening to Film Seizure.
We don't know that they've still been listening. They may have given up a long time
if
ago.
they heard me, they are.
Dave been listening to it.
Dave Ben.